The pregnancy test was still on the bathroom counter when Jae Won called. Yuna picked up on the first ring, because she always picked up for him. Because for 11 months, she had told herself that a man who came to her at midnight with whiskey on his breath and guilt in his eyes was a man who was going to choose her. Eventually, she heard his voice and she already knew. "Congratulations," she said before he could speak. "Is it a boy or a girl?" Silence. 3 full seconds of it. "How did you, Yuna?" "I need to explain." She hung up. "Now here is what you need to understand." At that exact moment, Kang Jae Won, the man they called the silent architect of Seoul's most powerful private investment syndicate, was standing in a hospital corridor outside his wife's room. His wife, Mina. His wife, who was 7 months pregnant. His wife, who had spent the last 11 months watching her husband drift toward someone else and choosing, again and again, to stay. She was done staying. And what Jae Won was about to discover was that losing a woman who had decided to leave was nothing like losing a deal, a network, or a reputation. Those things money could rebuild. This he couldn't. This is the story of the man who had everything, gambled it on someone who never loved him, and spent the next year learning what it cost. Let's go back to the beginning. Because to understand how Kang Jae Won got to that hospital corridor, you need to understand the man he was before the fall. Kang Jae Won was not the loudest man in any room. He didn't have to be. At 38, he ran a private investment syndicate that moved quietly through Seoul's commercial real estate, logistics, and, if you spoke his name in the right circles, political finance. Not the kind of political finance you read about in newspapers. The kind that never gets printed. He had 3 rules. Never show weakness. Never explain a decision twice. And never let anyone see what you actually want, because the moment they know, they own you. He had applied these rules to every relationship in his life. Business partners. Rivals. His own mother. His wife, Mina, had been the first person in 38 years to make those rules feel like a prison. Mina Seokong was a pediatric surgeon. She worked 14-hour shifts and came home smelling of antiseptic, and still managed to remember the names of everyone at every dinner party they attended. She was warm in the way that Jae Won had never been taught to be. She laughed easily, cried without embarrassment, and told him the truth even when he didn't ask for it. He had married her because he recognized something in her he had spent his life trying to bury in himself. And then, slowly, over 3 years of 18-hour workdays and canceled dinners and a marriage that had become a scheduling problem, he had stopped reaching for it. Yuna had appeared in that gap. Not as a villain. That is the important thing. Not as a seductress or a schemer. She had appeared as a mirror. A woman who reflected back the version of Jae Won that had existed before responsibility made him rigid. He mistook that reflection for love. That mistake would cost him everything he actually had. Mina had known for 4 months. Not suspected. Known. The specific, cellular knowledge that a woman develops when the man she loves starts becoming a stranger in increments, so small he thinks she can't measure them. She noticed the way his phone faced down on the table during dinner. The way he laughed differently on certain calls. Lighter, younger, like a man performing a version of himself. The late nights that stopped feeling like work and started feeling like somewhere else entirely. She had not confronted him. Not because she was weak. Mina Seokong had repaired the hearts of children no larger than her forearm. She was not weak. She had not confronted him because she was building something first. A record. A plan. A life that existed entirely in her own name. While Jae Won was attending dinners that ended somewhere she couldn't follow, Mina had quietly moved assets into an account her attorney had helped her establish. She had documented what she knew, not obsessively but carefully. She had spoken to a family counselor once, alone, and come away with a clarity that felt like ice water after years of warm confusion. She had decided, if he came back, he would come back to a woman who had already chosen herself. If he didn't, she would not be starting over. She would be continuing. The pregnancy had not been planned. When she told Jae Won, she watched his face for the thing she was looking for, the unguarded, unperformed reaction that would tell her who he still was underneath the distance. She saw shock. She saw something that looked like genuine joy, raw and surprised. She saw him try. For 6 weeks he tried, and she let herself believe because she wanted to, because their child deserved a father, because she was human. Then Yuna called the house phone by mistake, and the 6 weeks collapsed into 4 months of proof she hadn't needed to go looking for, because it had found her. The call came at 11:22 p.m. on a Wednesday. Jae Won was not at the office. His assistant had logged him there. His phone pinged the tower near Gangnam Station. But he was not at the office. Mina was. She had gone there after her shift to pick up documents he had asked her to sign. Estate planning papers, the kind that felt more urgent now that there was a child coming. She had his office key because she was his wife. She had let herself in because she had no reason not to. The desk was clear. The room was quiet. The Mont Blanc pen was in its holder. And on the side table, the one he never let anyone touch, was a photograph she had never seen. It was not incriminating in an obvious way. It was a restaurant. 2 people across a table. But the way they sat, the angle of his body toward hers, the way he looked at her with his guard completely down, that was the incriminating part. Mina had never seen Jae Won look at her like that. Not once in 4 years of marriage. She stood in his office for 11 minutes. She took the photograph with her phone. She signed the estate papers. She put them back in the right folder in the right drawer. She drove home. She made tea. She called her attorney. Jae Won came home at 1:14 a.m. smelling of a perfume that was not hers and wearing the expression of a man composing an apology he hadn't been asked for yet. She was sitting at the kitchen table. 2 cups of tea. 1 for each of them. "Sit down," she said. "We need to talk." And in the silence that followed, as he looked at her face and understood that she already knew everything, Kang Jae Won felt, for the first time in his life, the specific terror of a powerful man who has run out of moves. She didn't raise her voice. She never did. That was the thing about Mina Seo Kang that Jae Won had always quietly feared. Her composure wasn't performance. It was architecture. Structural. Built from years of standing in surgical suites and delivering news that broke people and staying steady, so they had something to hold on to. She placed her phone on the table. The photograph faced up. He looked at it. His jaw tightened. He said nothing. "I'm going to speak," Mina said, "and I need you to listen without explaining." "Not yet. Just listen." He nodded. "I know about Yuna. I have known for 4 months. I know the timeline. I know what happened in the 6 weeks after I told you about the baby. I know it didn't stop. I know it's been 11 months. I know because I stopped pretending not to see." She picked up her tea, drank from it, set it down. "I am not going to tell you what kind of man this makes you," she said, "because you already know. I am not going to perform devastation for you because I processed that alone, the way I've processed most of our marriage. What I'm going to tell you is this." She met his eyes. "Our child is coming in 8 weeks. When she arrives, she will have 2 parents who show up for her. That is non-negotiable. But she will not grow up watching her mother accept less than she deserves, because that lesson is the most dangerous one I could ever teach her." She slid a folder across the table. "My attorney has prepared a separation agreement. It's fair. I didn't make it punitive because this isn't about punishment. It's about truth. You have 48 hours to review it." Then Mina stood. She picked up both cups, rinsed them in the sink, dried her hands, and said over her shoulder, "The guest room is made up." And she walked down the hall and closed their bedroom door quietly. Jae Won sat alone at the kitchen table with a folder and the photograph and the particular silence of a man who has finally run out of exits. Yuna had spent 11 months telling herself a story. The story went like this. Jae Won was in a marriage that had already ended. He stayed out of obligation, out of habit, out of the particular cowardice that keeps powerful men in the wrong place long past when they know the truth. She was not breaking something. She was simply waiting for him to acknowledge what already existed. She had told herself this on late nights when she checked her phone more than she should have. On mornings when his texts came hours apart. On the one occasion she had seen Mina, at a charity gala from across the room, and had been struck, unwillingly and devastatingly, by the fact that Mina was beautiful in the specific way that real confidence makes you beautiful. Yuna had looked away first. The call came on a Thursday morning. Not Jae Won's voice. His assistant. "Mr. Kang has asked me to inform you that he will no longer be in contact. All current professional arrangements through your firm will be transitioned to alternative representation. He wishes you well." That was it. Those were the words. 11 months. Hundreds of messages. An entire architecture of stolen time and weighted silence, and the specific intimacy of someone who tells you things they say they tell no one else. "He wishes you well." Yuna sat in her apartment for 4 hours. She did not call back. She did not send a message. She was too intelligent for those moves and too devastated for any others. What she understood, slowly and without the comfort of anger to cushion it, was this. She had not been the woman Jae Won was choosing instead of Mina. She had been the distance between him and himself. A place to disappear into. Not a destination. He had never been leaving. He had just been hiding. And she had let herself become the hiding place. Seo Yun arrived at 4:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Mina's labor had been 41 hours. Jae Won had been present for all of them, by Mina's explicit permission and her attorney's confirmed documentation. Sitting in the corner of the delivery suite in a chair, he had not left for 2 days. Not performing contrition. Not making speeches. Simply there because she had allowed him to be, and he understood, finally, the difference between being allowed and being wanted. When Seo Yun arrived, the nurse placed her in Mina's arms first. Mina looked at her daughter for a long time. She made a sound Jae Won had never heard her make. Something between a sob and a laugh, low and private, like a door opening on a room that only the two of them would ever fully inhabit. Then she looked up. At him. And she said, quietly, across the space of everything that had happened between them, "Come meet her." He crossed the room. He looked at his daughter. Seo Yun had Mina's nose and what appeared to be his stubbornness, already apparent in the set of her jaw, even in the first minutes of her life. She was 7 pounds, 2 ounces of absolute, uncomplicated requirement. She needed things. That was all. She needed warmth and milk and someone to hold her, and she did not care about syndicates or separation agreements or 11 months of a story that had not been about her. She just needed to be held. Jae Won held her, and felt, for the first time in years, that he was doing exactly the right thing in exactly the right place. It did not fix what was broken. He knew that. Mina's expression, warm toward her daughter and carefully neutral toward him, confirmed it. But it was a beginning, the smallest possible one. And beginnings, he was learning, were not nothing. Attorney Bok Soo-jin had a reputation in Seoul's family law circles for building agreements that held. She was 51, silver-haired, and had spent 3 decades watching powerful men discover that the law did not accommodate their instinct to negotiate everything into a more comfortable shape. She laid Mina's terms on the conference table without preamble. Jae Won read them slowly. He did not interrupt. Primary residence for Seo Yun remains with Mrs. Kang. Visitation is structured, supervised for the first 3 months, transitioning to joint custody review at 6 months pending compliance. Compliance defined as weekly co-parenting counseling, verified attendance. No unannounced contact with Mrs. Kang outside of scheduled parental communication. Any romantic relationship that involves contact with Seo Yun requires 60 days notice and mutual agreement. Spousal support is itemized. Mrs. Kang retains the Hannam apartment. Mr. Kang retains his professional assets. He set the document down. Attorney Bok studied him the way experienced lawyers study defendants, looking for the performance underneath the compliance. "Mr. Kang," she said, "in my experience, men in your position agree quickly. What separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't isn't the agreement. It's what they do on day 47, when the guilt has faded and the inconvenience hasn't." He looked at her. Then he said something she did not expect. "What would you need to see by day 47? She paused. That was not the question powerful men asked. They argued. They negotiated. They brought counteroffers and leverage, and the particular entitlement of men who had never been told their desire was not a solution. She told him, specifically, and he wrote it down. Outside in the hallway, Mina sat with Seo Yun asleep in the carrier. She had not attended the meeting. She had sent her attorney instead because she had learned, the hard way, that some negotiations needed to happen without her presence, because her presence would make it about her feelings, and this needed to be about structure. Her phone buzzed. "Attorney Bok," he signed. "All terms. No revision." Mina looked at Seo Yun's sleeping face. She didn't feel relief. She felt the beginning of something steadier than relief. She felt ground. Day 1. Jae Won arrived at 9 a.m. exactly. He rang the bell. He waited. He did not text first to announce himself, as the terms required. Mina opened the door, handed him Seo Yun, and went to the kitchen. He sat on the couch with his daughter for 2 hours and did not touch his phone. Day 12. He arrived and the diaper bag wasn't ready. He asked where the supplies were. Mina pointed. He assembled the bag himself. He did not say anything about the previous arrangement where someone else had always done this. Day 19. Seo Yun had a fever. He called, within the permitted communication window, and asked what temperature required a doctor. Mina told him. She did not ask why he didn't know. He researched pediatric fever management for 3 hours after he hung up. Day 31. His largest investment partner requested a dinner meeting that conflicted with his Thursday visit. He rescheduled the dinner. His partner was annoyed. Jae Won explained that Thursday was not available. He did not explain why. He did not feel the need to justify it. Day 47. The co-parenting counselor, a direct woman named Dr. Ko, asked him in session, "What has been the hardest part of this period?" He said, "Realizing that I don't know my daughter yet. And knowing that the reason I don't know her is because I spent 11 months prioritizing something that didn't deserve it." Dr. Ko wrote something in her notes. Day 63. Mina came home from a hospital shift to find Jae Won on the floor of the living room, Seo Yun on his chest, both of them asleep. She stood in the doorway for a moment. She did not wake them. She took a photograph. She did not send it to anyone. She put it in the album she was building. The one for Seo Yun, the one that would tell her daughter the story of both her parents, not the clean version, the true one. Day 90. Attorney Bach submitted the first compliance review to both parties. All conditions met. Counseling verified. No violations. Mina read the report on her lunch break. She set it down. She thought about day 47, about a man writing down what he needed to do instead of arguing that he shouldn't have to. She did not forgive him, but she began to believe something had changed. Those are not the same thing, but one of them was enough to work with. On a Sunday in late autumn, Mina and Jae Won sat in the same room for the first time without lawyers or counselors present. It was Seo Yun's 6-month photo shoot, a small family tradition Mina had decided to keep because the tradition belonged to her daughter, not her marriage. A photographer she trusted came to the Hanam apartment. Jae Won sat where he was told. He held Seo Yun when asked. He did not try to manage the session, direct the framing, or make it about anything other than what it was. Afterward, the photographer left. Seo Yun fell asleep, and Mina and Jae Won were alone in the apartment with the particular quiet of two people who have said everything that needed to be said and are now deciding what to do with the silence. He spoke first. "I want you to know something. Not as part of any process. Not for the record." He looked at his hands. "What I had with Yuna was never love. I know that now. It was the reflection of the person I'd rather have been. Someone without weight, without failure, without the responsibility of being a real husband to a real woman who saw me clearly. I was a coward about that clarity." Mina was quiet. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "I'm not building to a request. I just needed to say it out loud to you, because you deserve to hear it from me directly, and not through an attorney's language." Mina looked at him for a long time. The look she gave him was not warm and it was not cold. It was honest, the way she was honest about everything, without performance, without protection. "I know," she said. "I knew what it was before you did. That was part of what made it so hard." A silence. "We're not getting back together," Mina said. "I need you to know that clearly. What we have is Seo Yun, and I think we can build something real for her. Something she can trust. But I need you as her father, not as my husband. Those are different jobs." He nodded. "I understand. And I think," she paused, "I think you might be better at this one." It was not forgiveness. It was not reconciliation. It was something rarer and more durable than either. It was honesty between two people who had stopped pretending. Jae Won drove home that evening through Seoul's early winter light. His apartment was quiet. His phone showed 17 messages from 3 different business contacts. He set it face down on the table. He picked up the photograph the hospital had given them, Seo Yun, minutes old, eyes closed, entirely new. He placed it next to his Mont Blanc pen on the black desk. The one personal item. It was, he thought, the only one that had ever deserved to be there. If this story reached you, if Mina's composure hit somewhere you recognized, or Jae Won's cowardice looked uncomfortably familiar, or Yuna's story made you sit with something you hadn't expected, then you already know this channel doesn't do easy answers. We tell the stories that real life actually looks like. Not the clean version. The one with kitchen tables and signed agreements, and 2 people in the same room figuring out how to rebuild something honest from the wreckage of what was dishonest. Subscribe to Aurora Love Saga right now and hit the bell, because next week's story starts with a question that makes this one look simple. What do you do when the person who betrayed you is also the only person keeping your family together? And before you go, drop your answer in the comments right now. Was Mina right to stay in the same orbit as Jae Won for Seo Yun's sake? Or does a clean break serve the child better than a complicated truth? There is no correct answer. That's exactly why I want to see yours. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that staying is not the same as accepting, and that leaving is not the same as giving up. They know who they are.